Okay, it is recording.
Call the meeting to order. First move is to approve the agenda.
Well, let's discuss that right now. If we, without a quorum, can we even approve the agenda?
Yes, yeah, that's a procedural, that's not an action item.
Motion to approve.
Okay, second.
I'll second it.
All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, public comments in jurisdiction of the management board.
Jerry Conrad just joined via Zoom as well.
Okay.
Good morning.
Okay,
I'm researching and going to write a history of the Solid Waste Management Board.
that would be very interesting. I think 12 years I got on this board, I thought it was perhaps the dumbest thing to come here and talk trash. And after 12 years, I've found it to be quite interesting. The fact that we haul out 28 semi-loads a day and all the was built to begin with, I'll be anxious for you to complete that project.
Well, I got till I'm age 90.
Okay. All right, I hope I'm around when you're 90, so we'll see. Communication shared by solid waste management board members. Okay, and can we, any problem approving the minutes?
Nope, you cannot.
Okay, and we will go on to discussion of budget carryover requests. We will not be able to take action on it at this meeting.
Let me share the screen here. And thank you for your patience. Let's see here. Share. Okay, Kevin or Jerry, can you confirm that you can see our screen, Excel?
Yes, I can.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, during the process in past years, we would always bring this to the board to explain to you what we intend to carry over into the next year for our capital projects. A type 1 carryover will happen automatically. It's a project that's already in place. Funds have already been expended in the previous year. And we intend to continue forward with that project. So the type 1 carryover we have is the Sunnyview landfill gas system upgrades. Budgeted 1 million for it. Parts are on order right now from 2023 purchase orders. It's for the landfill gas compressor blower and flare system. It was approved by the Solid Waste Management Board on September 20th. Commissioning is planned to begin when we get the equipment, and that'll be this year in 2024. So that will be an automatic carryover.
And correct me if I'm wrong, is that to kind of downsize that flare system?
It's, yes, downsize the flare system, replace aging equipment. I haven't been in on this project up until like last month's meeting, so I don't have
It's pretty
a
much
lot of
what the
other
project
details.
is.
Okay.
Moving on to type 2 carryovers, we do not have a purchase order at the end of the year, but the department wishes to expend unused budget funds in the succeeding year. So I have 2 entries for the concrete ramp repairs for the recycling, a loading pit, and the North MSW loading pit. This project was combined with our transfer station concrete replacement project, but the bid process could not be completed in 2023. The project was started in 2024, and this will add $20,000 more into our 2024 budget for this. That will help cover our engineering design and construction observation costs. So it was an intent to add that in too. The last one on here is the Snell Road Lift Station Rehabilitation Project, budgeted $200,000. Project planning and consultant visited the site in 2023. We are waiting for a work order from both for additional pricing for the actual bid process paperwork that they will help provide. And then the project we plan to put out for bid in 2024. From what I understand on this one, again, not one I would normally have covered in past years because it was environmental. The original paperwork that John Raby put together was a application of protective coating on interior of Snell Road lift station, replacement of lift station, truck discharge piping, replacement of electrical control building. The lift station is used for leachate extraction from our Snell Road landfill. It is necessary to control leachate from the site as environmental regulation. So the current lift station was installed more than 40 years ago. And the work, to where we need it to be for fully operational again. It is operating, it's just had
It's
ongoing.
obsolete equipment and just normal maintenance for it.
And that gets pumped up the lift station and then sent to Oshkosh
I believe so.
for
Yes.
treatment of the leachate.
Yes,
And the one thing I'd just like to add is, while we're have an acting director and we're kind of operating without a landing net, would it be wise to have Marcus attend these meetings? Just, I think he's been your environmental tech for 20-25 years, something like that. I just wonder if any of his input would ever be helpful, or if that's.
If you have questions, Kathy, or I can find out for you. I don't know. I think as Kathy and I are more involved in the day-to-day operations, we'll have a better control on things.
I know he's really upset about his pay raise,
Okay.
which is a good thing. He was all set to retire this year, and then he got a raise, and his wife said, "In no way you're retiring, because your benefits at the end are based on your 3 highest years. You're working 3 more years." So I think that's good for us.
absolutely.
And I think there's a lot of key employees that we saved for another 3 years that way. So I'm sorry, getting off track. Any other questions on the budget carryovers? Alrighty, moving on down to the compact track loader and accessory package.
Okay, let me bring up that screen to share. Okay. This is a 2020 budget that was approved last year in the budget making process. The equipment is a track skid steer with bucket, forks, rotary brush mower accessories to be used for grounds and turf maintenance at our landfill sites here. The 2024 budget amount was $100,000. We followed the county's purchasing policy and published RFP solid waste 02-24. We received a handload of proposals, and we considered all of the proposals. After reviewing all the proposals and the costs, we recommended award to Fabic Cat out of Green Bay for a new 2024 Caterpillar 259D3 with bucket, forks, and rotary brush mower accessories package. The cost is $78,325. So we were happy to see that it came under the original estimate and our budgeted amount.
And because we don't have a quorum that comes up in 2 weeks that we can award it, I don't know how much lead time there is on getting that.
The lead time is they can deliver in 2 days.
Okay.
So, as far as it was part of the original budget, I'm not sure.
There's no approval needed. They should award it and sign the contract and it'll be delivered.
Okay.
No actions necessary, even if you had a form.
Okay, and I hope in the next county board session that they take a serious look at allowing members on Zoom at committee meetings to at least be able to vote. I think we've tied our hands behind their back for no good reason.
Okay, I'm a little confused by what Ethan said. So the board does not have to award the contract?
Yeah, this is an administrative function of the county executive and the county board has no, administrative functions, and so there's no action required.
Because it was budgeted, is that?
Yeah, it's already been approved and passed and,
Okay, so
And we're under budget.
so,
Right.
okay, so
correct.
for purposes, for future purposes, would this even come before the board? Or would it just be a memo item only? We
Right.
are now approving, or we're,
Right, that's what it should be.
okay, so we're evolving here into a new.
That's how I.
It would probably have to come before this board if it was over budget, is that
Correct.
correct?
Correct.
That's fine, that's
Or-
fine.
Or unbudgeted.
Or exactly, or.
Yeah.
And can you just explain to me what the, Brushmore, the rotary Brushmore is? Is that basically a brush hog that, or is this?
Yes, it's a mower that attaches to the front of the machine and allows us to mow close around trees and under like evergreen trees, gets in close. This most significant use and advantage to us will be that it'll get up close to our wellheads and where we have to take our environmental monitoring tests. And in the past, that was always done by summer hires or people with a weed whacker. So it takes a lot of time out of that process. It was like a full-time job, just mowing around wellheads, so.
And the fact that it calls itself a Brushmore, does that mean that it can whack down
Yes,
bigger branches and so forth?
yes, yes.
Probably up
it's-
to like 3 inches.
I guess I wanna follow back through on the approval process then, okay? So I'm gonna assume then the approval process is sort of based upon the purchase order process? There's a sequence of approvals that has to take place, culminating with whom?
If you read the county code, chapter 15 says that the solid waste management board is subject to regulation of the codes. So chapter 3 discusses capital outlay. At the end of the day, all capital outlay is approved by the county executive through purchasing.
So what's the process? What's the process to get there? So the director initiates the process to,
Right.
I now want to buy this.
Right.
Is that a purchase order or is it
It goes out for bid and then a purchase order is awarded.
awarded and then there's an approval process, electronic approval process for purchase orders?
Correct.
Okay, and so what's the chain? If the director then said, I want to buy this, he submits a purchase order, who else is in that approval queue?
The purchasing agent and the county executive.
So just those three then, so it's director, purchasing agent signs off on it.
Yep.
And the county executive, and
Correct.
that's it. The county board isn't involved, because they
Correct.
already approved it.
Mhm.
This board's not involved, because we've already approved the
Correct.
budget.
Correct.
That's the logic behind it, and that's the process. then.
Correct.
For everything, what
Should be
doesn't,
for everything.
what about, construction contracts? Same thing?
If it's budgeted and part of a project, it should be the same
Yeah,
way.
that follows, in chapter 3, there's a public works ordinance, that allows, that would go under. In short, what the purchasing agent, and director of administration are doing is making sure we have the authority to sign the budget. There is probably a contract involved in this, Michael, which means corp counsel, the county attorney is reviewing, the contract
Mhm.
and things like that. I'm not sure if that's in this case or not, but, in a public works project, Mike is largely, and the purchasing agent is largely involved to make sure we follow the open bidding process. So a public works project has more statutory requirements, than a capital outlay purchase would. as far as approvals and open bids and who can we pick and not pick. In RFP, we didn't have to pick the lowest responsible, we could have picked the one that best fit our needs, even though it was more expensive. In a public works project, generally you can't do that.
I mean, but part of the discussion here is this is different than, I guess, we had operated in the past. And I think it's appropriate that the board at least knows what, again, knows what we used to do and what we used to have to do. Now we don't, I think that should be communicated appropriately to the board, through the board, however, so that we're not either duplicating stuff or that we know when we're approved, when we budget for something, that's it, right? That has never been the protocol, and it's fine that it is, if that's what the code says, but let's all get on the same page here. I'm already sensing this, well, I mean, let's make sure this board's on the same page with what administration is doing. I just think that's appropriate.
Yeah.
And if there's any other changes that have taken place based upon what how administration is interpreting things, I think the board should know what power it thought it had versus what power it doesn't have.
Corp counsel, she's on vacation until Tuesday. She has, I think, a draft of her memo. This particular issue is covered by an attorney general's opinion. And there's two of them. There's one from 88 and there's one from 2012. And it's this board's power, duty and powers in a county executive or county administrative county administrator county are advisory for policy and budget. And then kind of consultory there. So in this case, we've reviewed Mary Ann is currently reviewing every resolution that has ever existed relating to the Solid Waste Management Board from 1974 through today. The historic, what had happened in somewhere around 1999, but then officially in 2002, for a period of about 4 or 5 years, is when this quasi-independent language came about. Prior to that, every capital outlay and everything followed the same process. The county board had rejected exemptions to solid waste to not follow the capital outlay, chapter 3 of the code. And so this is the change that we're making is very clear. Boards and commissions under state law do not have any administrative authority on things like this. That law changed in 1985. And this board has never since 85 has not executed that authority until about 2002. And so this is one of those cases where if it's budgeted, the administration through the process set by the county board, in this case, chapter 3, and the policies and procedural manuals that's approved by the Personnel and Finance Committee, this is a purchase that can just be made. Every department acts that way. Mike's department, Parks Department, Highway Department, Land and Water, they all act this way unless there's a specific statute that requires some type of board action. Grants, funding, things like that sometimes require board resolution.
Again, so let me close the circle here on this. Whatever the reasoning behind it is, I believe administration has a responsibility to officially inform the board of what its new duties are and what they aren't, as opposed to this piecemeal every time we get to a meeting. Well, maybe that, well, this attorney general said this and that. That to me, if we're gonna if that's what administration believes and is going to follow through with that, then there ought to be instructions to this board talking about what authority it used to have versus what authority it has now. That's only fair to the board. It's only fair to people putting together agendas that today say we were gonna award a contract when in fact we aren't awarding a contract, right? The agenda is wrong.
Make an agenda item.
Exactly.
Have this
Right.
The
explained.
county executive agrees with that, and he has asked the corp counsel, we're at several weeks, I mean, we're pre-Christmas for that exact conversation, and she couldn't be here today because she's on vacation, and
That's fine.
I think the intent is for that to occur. And, you know, that's where it is. I mean, chapter 15 of the code is clear. The county, functions that are under the rule of the county board and the county executive are not delegated to this board.
Okay, Ethan, with all respect, that's fine that that's your opinion. I want to hear it from the corp council and I want it in writing. That's all. Okay, fair enough. I think this board deserves an opinion from corp council telling the board that this is what her legal opinion is. And then we respect whatever the corp council says is the legal opinion. But this is not efficient government right now. What this is a lot of things up in the air, who can approve it, who can't, and we're taking the word without the actual legal justification behind it. So I'm gonna request that there is an agenda item that succinctly comes from the legal opinion of the county indicating what this board power is and what it is not, and to distinguish between what power it used to have versus what it doesn't have anymore. Fair enough?
And we can get that added when we get to the future agenda items. I guess there's no action for us to take on that. Just bear in mind, I share with Mike, I'm a little surprised, I guess. I don't know what we've been doing here the last 10 years.
30 years.
30 years. So, there's a lot of changes going on that we're a little concerned about. Okay, letter of support for Senate Bill 906.
Okay, let me get the,
I'm sorry, did one of the others want to comment? Did I miss that?
I'm not sure. Jerry or Kevin, did one of you want to comment? We heard a little, sound come over our speaker here.
Might have been me coughing. I apologize.
Okay,
No, the only comment I would have, I'd second Mike's request, and I would hope it's in writing.
okay, thank you, Jerry. Let's see, okay, I'm going to share the screen now for the letter of support here. Okay. Okay, so this letter of support is for Senate Bill 906, Assembly Bill 987, an act to amend 20.370 sub 4 sub HQ and 287.21 intro, and to create a 287.25 of the statutes relating to education about rechargeable batteries and providing grants for collecting and recycling rechargeable batteries. The bills were introduced by Senators Tomczyk, Cowles, and co-sponsored by Representative Kitchens. It was expedited to get it scheduled within the current session, which is expected to conclude here in late February or early March, from what I understand. The proposals request increased funding for DNR to improve education and outreach for proper disposal and recycling of rechargeable batteries, funding and means to create a grant program for municipalities, businesses, or nonprofits to properly collect and transport rechargeable batteries to recycling sites. That would be up to $20,000 per site. It also includes grant funding provisions for fire suppression, fire detection systems, updates at solid waste and recycling facilities, up to $50,000 per facility. This legislation is supported by the Solid Waste Association of North America, SWANA, and Associated Recyclers of Wisconsin, otherwise known as ARRO, as of January 24th of this year. We do anticipate many other industry organizations and businesses will come to support it. Brown and Outagamie County are also working with their governing bodies to recommend support of this bill or the bills. Just as an update as of yesterday, it seems as though there's additional activity on it. The Senate passed it and immediately messaged to the second house, so the assembly needs to schedule it and agree on language from what I understand in this process. So it is moving along quite quickly. We here at Winnebago County Solid Waste, I speak for staff, I highly recommend support of this bill due to the assistance it would provide, helping us to fund a safe rechargeable battery collection within our own department. It would help our municipalities potentially collect batteries at their locations, and it will certainly assist us with funding an updated fire monitoring system within our transfer station. That'll help us have eyes on heat sensing, eyes on the pile to be able to detect fires before they actually turn into a full-blown activation. This information was referred to Executive Damo and received support on it on 213. I drafted a letter for Doug Nelson to review and to sign on behalf of the Solid Waste Management Board, but we would also highly recommend that it go into the county process of the legislation committee and the county board approval as well. Open for discussion. Here's a letter. I didn't want to read it word for word, but it summarizes the same information that I presented to you. Just outlining the dangers related to improper handling and disposal of rechargeable batteries. Primary concern stems from the lithium-ion batteries with power devices. We see across the board with devices that these show up in. They do continue to hold a considerable charge, even though the battery seems to be dead and not recharging. Once these devices are damaged, they start a high heat and intense fire. And we have seen fires within the recycling industry in the state, and fires within transfer stations and fires in landfills that have been shown and proven to be caused by batteries. We've had instances here last year where they were caught ahead of time before they turned into a full-blown activation. Employees smelled smoke, saw flames, pulled the material out of the pile, got it outside, extinguished before it started everything on on fire. And those also came from battery powered devices. The letter supports the bill for the DNR to seek up to 10 million from the Joint Committee on Finance in the current and future biennium to fund the education and grant programs. Just outlining why we would find it important to our industry, important to our specific department here. And just encouraging the legislators and Wisconsin, Brown County, Outagamie County, Wisconsin Counties Association, Wisconsin Towns Association, League of Wisconsin Municipalities, Winnebago County State Representatives, Senators, and Governor Tony Evers to support this effort. Questions?
Is this just money that would be coming to us? Is it cost sharing where we would have to expend, $20,000 to get $20,000?
From what I've heard through the industry, I haven't seen anything specifically, but I believe it was Wisconsin Council on Recycling, a meeting that I attended earlier in the month. The DNR representative stated that would be a no match grant.
Okay.
Now, we do already have funds budgeted in 2024 for camera systems that would be heat detecting systems, but it was very much a quick effort to fix, to get something in place. Now, it's not a full activation where it would notify the alarm company. It would just be something that we would be able to monitor through our own technology system here. So certainly having additional grant funds available to us would help us expand on that and have it actually call out to a monitoring center that could notify staff here if we have a hot spot in the facility.
I personally have no problem with signing it. I'm confused whether we can even take action on it, whether I can sign that. We don't, do we bring it up, the same thing up at our next meeting? And I also think it carries a little bit more weight if it comes from the entire county board.
Yeah, we've already engaged on the legislation. So, practice in county government is the county executive is allowed to, lobby on any legislation he feels necessary. Any county board member can, as long as you make it clear that it's you personally supporting and it's not a, county supported thing. Boards have that authority to kind of make this as the county position. And so this bill is actually, the assembly is going to gavel out tomorrow. This bill is not on the calendar. We're working to see if we can get this and another bill on. We have until 6 p.m. tonight. I suspect it's not going to be on, primarily because there's no funding mechanism for it in this biennium. What they would do is they would be forced to do what's called a 1310 request to the supplemental program of finance for 10 million. And my guess is the assembly speaker would rather deal with this in the budget than kind of go through that process. But we've already engaged WCA, the governor's office, the speaker's office. It's already passed the Senate, so it's waiting, and it's got a hearing and a vote in the assembly committee. So it's just waiting for rules to schedule it. The calendar's out for tomorrow. It was voted on yesterday, and this bill's not on it. So, but the last day of session, they bring all kinds of votes up that we don't expect. So we're working through it. For you to sign this, no action is particularly needed. You could just decide as, the vice chairman of solid waste, the director could sign this, an executive could sign it. We just can't say that the county board supports it, because that would require a resolution and a vote.
So does it not even matter if we send this letter at this time, or?
Yeah, this letter, having worked in the legislature for 5 years, this letter probably the letter itself does very little. Asking this to be on a horse trade is the approach. We've asked that. I don't know if it will work or not work. I did send an email yesterday to the speaker's chief of staff, on another bill, and said, I think I have one more, and I didn't hear back, so. But it's end of session stuff. And I think WCA is gonna put this on their radar for tomorrow.
Do we just let that letter live in limbo for a while and mail it when we have a full quorum, and mail it?
What we can do for your next meeting is,
Email it, whatever.
we can draft an advisory resolution on a program. So we don't like typically to do resolutions specific necessarily to like bills that are near the end. So we would write a resolution saying we conceptually support something substantially similar than the county's position as we go into the budget requests, which will be due in May. The governor will put his budget targets out in the middle of May. The budget requests are due in September. Through that whole process, the county can then engage. So we'll do a resolution here, which will go to legislative March, and then board. I don't know when legislative's meeting. I don't know if it would hit board in March, but we would do that saying, hey, the state needs to do something on batteries. Okay, and here's what we prefer. Here's the policy objectives we prefer.
Consensus, we let them do that course of action. Agreed? Okay, report on department operations.
Well, the big one I've got is we've had a catastrophic failure in engine number 4. So we are looking at what options we have right now, whether it's economically feasible to repair it, or if it's one that we should look at replacing. So I don't have any numbers yet for you, but it's not gonna be a small one.
Speaking for myself, And the number 4 has been a nightmare since day one, if I kind of remember correctly. And I think we are getting so close to the expense that we put out there to produce gas versus what we're getting from the electric company.
Right. What I'm trying to do is get my arms around how much it's costing us to produce electricity and what it costs to flare. You know, if, I know some of the plans were to move 4 and 5, I think it is, over to Snell. You know, we need to have a good idea on what all the costs are going to be. And right now, it's, what ended up happening was, a piece of the air intake, deteriorated and fell off and fell into the turbo flywheel. So it disintegrated the turbo, which sent metal shavings through the whole engine system. So we don't know whether or not whether we caught the particles in the, oil filter before it actually got into the cylinders. So we're doing some disassembly to see where we are with that. If it did get in and do significant further damage down the line, it would probably be time to decommission the engine and then decide what we have to do to be the least cost-effective way to get rid of them, or the most cost-effective way to get rid of the methane.
And a little bit, I know the last engine we bought was a much smaller engine because we just can't produce enough gas anymore to run the large engine. So if it was replaced at all, it would be replaced with a smaller one. But the other problem is that the money that we got from the electric company dropped drastically. We had a very good contract with them for 10 years where we got paid a fair price. Now we get paid about half, combined with the methane and the hill. I think is our budget for like 600,000 in revenues.
I believe so.
And one engine costs $1 million if I'm not mistaken. So we are getting very close to, and you know, a full-time employee to keep working on them is not, is 150, I'm guessing, or somewhere in that area. I don't, yeah, we need some real serious numbers, and I'm thinking we're getting extremely close to not being able. I love the idea that we're producing electricity out of a garbage dump. I've looked at, I bragged about the 3 million we were getting to everybody that would ever listen, but, and I hate the complaints we get when they see the flare and they say, my God, we could have heated 100 houses with that, with burning that up. So it's a difficult decision, but we need some serious numbers, I guess.
Right. And then I know we've got the concrete floor in the transfer station we've got phase 1 pretty much done. We're working on phase 2. So that should be done probably in another 8 weeks. And part of that is part of the pits that we're doing, right?
Yes, the north MSW pit and the recycling pit, the concrete was busted out on Monday and rebar put in yesterday, and they're pouring concrete right now as we speak. There'll be a cure time on that, and then hopefully next week, Monday, we'll start shipping out the recycling pit again, and then the floor on the north MSW side is being torn out today, and they'll move into rebar later on this week and pour concrete on Monday for that section, that half of the tipping floor. So it was slightly delayed, but it has picked up speed again, and we're progressing to have this finished by March 4th. We hope to be back up for full operations again.
Okay, and that will have allowed the concrete enough time to cure that we can be driving on it and so forth?
compression tests are out there. We have a minimum of 4,500 PSI for compression tests within 72 hours. So once it hits that 4,500, then we can open that section of the floor back up and start driving on it again. The full compression will be 5,000, and that's to be met within 28 days of the pour.
Okay, and my understanding was that the big rush on this was to try to avoid the load limits on the highway, and with the weather we've got, are they already on, or?
That was the second part of today's operation report is, yes, road weight limits started February 5th. So as
The
soon as,
earliest they've ever started
probably,
recorded history?
probably, yeah, and it's about a month earlier than normal. We decided we have a concrete project already, everything's paid for, everybody's scheduled, we're just gonna go for it and do it. I did have to back up commercial materials on the recycling side and back up, commercial materials on the waste side for the last 2 weeks of the month here, so that we don't overwhelm the system and go into non-compliance. So there will be some revenues that will be down in February because of that. But it does help maintain inbound materials where we can, maintain outflow of materials. Hopefully, if they came on early, hopefully they come off, the road weight limits come off early. That's what, we hope for. Usually the things that slow it down is additional cold weather and additional rain, which would keep the frost in the ground. So that's all good. The third thing I wanted to talk about was to save the date. The Tri-County Recycling Facility will have an open house on Wednesday, March 20th. It is also the same day as a board meeting for us, so I asked for a window of time between 11:30 and 12:30 for our board to come through. We do have that time in place now. There will be an email invitation that goes out this week, Thursday, so tomorrow, watch for that invite. RSVP through that invite. If you decide not to RSVP through that and would rather just go through me and say that you plan to attend, just let me know and I'll get you on the list for attending. I guess the only other thing we have to do is just speak to the clerk's office and try to figure out how to manage in case there is a quorum at the actual tour of this facility. We want to make sure that it's recognized that there potentially could be a quorum there. So that's a conversation Cassie will have with the clerk's office when she returns.
I think that's just simply a matter of posting it as a meeting, and there's.
Yeah, we just post what's called a quorum notice or a bad key notice and just say, at this time, there may be a notice, no business will be done. It's actually not a meeting posting, it's just a quorum notice. But yeah, we just need the details and we put it on the normal, we just created a new template for it.
Okay.
And can you explain a little bit, you send more stuff directly up to Brown and Outagamie because the transfer station is,
Yes.
and the drivers are okay with that, or you communicate with major haulers?
Yes, I have been in communication since I gave everybody basically a 1 month notice. Hey, this project is going to be happening. Just be advised there will be longer wait times. We may have to redirect your materials and tell you to direct haul. There was no pushback from anyone. In the last 2 weeks, or I should say last week, I sent out another notification to the large haulers saying that we couldn't take their commercial material because I need to make sure that we have room for our residential contracted material. So, on the recycling side, I'm turning away all commercial materials, but I am allowing all of our Winnebago County residential material to the facility here. We do have enough space on the tipping floor for our material, and that helps keep their routes on time. On the waste side, we've been doing really good, keeping up with what inbound. Any large construction projects, I would have turned away during roadway restrictions anyway. So the biggest impact is on the big haulers like Waste Management, Harder's, GFL, where I can't allow their regular commercial material through our facility on the waste side. If we did, we'd have to shut down. And until we get made space, and then it's just avoiding that. I don't want to have to turn them away, but at the same time, I don't want to have to shut the doors to everyone, so.
Yep. And the reason you didn't anticipate the warmest winter ever on record is you have no excuse for that?
My crystal ball failed,
Okay.
yes.
Ask Pops if only Phil.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, anything else on operations? Okay, future agenda items, Michael.
Again, I believe whenever the Corp Council is ready, I believe there's an appropriate, it's appropriate that the board as an agenda item, whether it discusses it on its own, but I don't know what it would discuss until we get some. But we need to get some, clarification, well, direction, whatever we want to call it, to indicate to the board it's, whatever change of power is being, proposed. So, again, I don't know when. I think it's, with respect, I think it's appropriate that we have as many board members here and available for that. So, so it doesn't have to be the next meeting. It will be a future one whenever, and to work together with the administration to put that together again, so we have an efficient, open, accountable, and transparent process here.
The other thing I'd like to add is, I'd like to get some sort of an update on how the director position is moving forward. Is that, I'm assuming it has.
Moving along,
It's moving
we've got
along.
applicants.
Okay, all right, and I believe that as acting chairman, I get to sit in on that hiring process. Is that
Yeah,
how that normally occurs?
we're meeting sometime this week with HR to kind of go through the goals of the position, goals of the interview process, questions for the interview process, who's in the room, how many steps,
Okay.
1 interview, 2 interviews, 3 interviews, phone screens, what that whole process will look like based on the number of applicants we have. So I think that meeting will occur this week for the 2 open director positions.
Okay.
Director of administration is an open position as well.
Okay. And the other thing, there's so many changes kind of occurring on this board, or people leaving, a new board's gonna be coming forward. How do we get a little update on our finances? Somewhere there's supposed to be 40 million in the bank, and I don't, makes me real nervous that 40 million stays there, because we are going to be losing money for the foreseeable future, and we have to maintain the hills and so forth. And I also kind of wonder, the ARPA, all they talk about is all the interest they got on 33 million. I'm kind of wondering if we aren't getting some interest on our 40 million. So I don't, Paul's been the watchdog monitoring that.
The last input on that was that we were down $1 million because the valuation of our investments, the present value of our investments were reduced because of the past low interest compared to the current interest. So you've got that margin of difference that was presented to the board over the past 6 months. When we came up with the budget consideration, when we evaluated, or maybe it was when the CAFR was issued back in July, the status of our assets were reduced, or present value was reduced by $1 million because of the skimpy interest that.
And we might be overstepping, but can we get more clarification on that at a future meeting?
Yep, we can bring the finance director and talk about all the kind of investments and things like that. Yep.
Okay, Paul?
Yeah, I got a couple of inputs that I'd like to share. From where I sit, it might be, I'm not knowledgeable, but it might be to consider a systematic income supplement for the facilities director for his services to the solid waste management board.
We followed county policy on that, and that's occurred.
Pardon me?
We have followed county policy on that, that has occurred.
Okay, well, then the county has compensated him for his
We have.
extra duties. The other is keeping back in your mind the possibility or the consideration of in deliberating on what has been going forward, consideration of hiring John Robbie as a consultant to help us weed through some of those nuances that are known in his lap, but not known by the board going forward. I don't know if he even considered that idea, but I'm dropping that idea as we face various decision points.
Put that on for future,
It's noted.
Okay.
That would be up to.
yep. Anything else? Looking for a motion to adjourn.
The other thing is, I'd like to confirm, or at least on my time, input that the explanation which citizen member Eska had presented be considered in a closed session type of organizational format.
You just like to read that big, long paragraph and go into closed session. It's my job to get the door, right?
No, I don't do that. You know, it was done by one of the other supervisors during my term as secretary. And so I never really had a chance to do that until maybe the last year or two that she was no longer active on the board. So, yeah, I had a chance to do that.
Looking for a motion to adjourn.
Did we set the next date?
Typically, what we tend to do is we, either the first Wednesday of the month, the third Wednesday of the month, but that's kind of subject to how much stuff is on the plate for us.
How are we
So
looking, Kathy, for?
The day would be March 6th. Right now I have a list of potential items to bring to the board for March 6th.
So I will not be here.
Okay,
Looks like we've got a few others, so we don't wanna, again, it would, so we could keep that, I guess, keep that agenda light. I don't know what other
okay,
plans are here, but some of
yeah,
the more meaty stuff, we should probably defer till we get to some
yeah.
larger forum.
I was looking at just program updates with the tonnage updates for the preliminary tonnage amounts to the BOW system, preliminary numbers on our universal waste, the waste we collect in the back of the building here, and the materials through our transfer station. So, that was, I believe, all that was on the radar. But certainly, I will keep that in mind as we go forward for the 6th.
and do we know whether Kevin or Jerry will be around for March 6th? I guess I'm just I'm gun shy as to whether we're gonna have a quorum.
I should be here.
Thank you, Jerry.
I think I'll be available in person. Fingers crossed.
There you go. The weather's nice. You guys, wherever you're at, you can come back now.
Kevin's in Oshkosh, I think, isn't he? He's just got COVID, that's all.
Well,
Yeah.
he's farming his
Coming
salt,
home.
so it's warm there. Okay.
Sounds good, Kevin, thank you.
And
Motion.
we're not much warmer than you are.
All right, motion to adjourn.
I'll second it.
Okay, motion made and seconded, all in favor, signify by saying aye. Opposed? Ethan, thank you for your input today, helping us steer forward.
Yeah, but glad we were able to have, at least have the discussion items. It happens occasionally when you can't have a clear on the phone.
There you go, yep. And